Hello and welcome to Smith Robotics. Today we are going to be talking about how I am creating a real life SpringBonnie Springlock animatronic suit as well. We're going to be going over the design process briefly, of course. The design, how it all fits together through how I manufactured it. What kind of supplies, what did I use to program the movements, and just some other updates and general information I'll add in as well to show you the process so far. Now in this video I will not be showing everything at every small detail. For example, some of the mechanisms, some of the design and everything of how I make these. I'll still show them, but I won't be breaking them down into how I actually made it, because to be honest I had to go through a lot of design work trying to figure out what works and what doesn't, and well, I don't like just give them out, if you understand what I mean. I prefer other people to try and make their own and see what they can come up with. It is quite fun, but at the same time it's quite challenging, so I like everybody else to do that themselves instead of just, copy and paste and everything. So I just want to leave that there, and now we can get into the actual video. And no, I do not have a script for this, because half the time when I do, and whenever I try and remember what I wrote down, or whenever I have to look away, I usually have pauses, so that's kind of why I'm speaking freely at the moment, and why sure I do have pauses, and I do kind of stutter and maybe trail off a sentence or two, but to be honest with you, I just find it way easier, because it just is. Anyway, let's get into the video. Now, starting off with the design process, the first actual model wasn't actually made by me, which is like the base of the model and everything. I was actually given it and a few other models by a friend on one of the Discord groups I'm in. He gave me and a few other creators such as Technofur and also Afton Robotics as well. He gave us a few of the models, which are very accurate to the designs of the games and everything. He didn't actually make them, but he knew where to find them, and also he could give them to us, which was very nice of him. Thank you for that, if you're watching, of course. But yeah, he gave us them. Now, to be fair, I was going to make my first original SpringBonnie suit, like how I used to design some of the other animatronics that I made. Now, as I was making this, I was basing it off a rough photos of the Help Wanted version of SpringBonnie. But since at the time of it, because it was in 2022 when I was doing it, and nobody discovered the actual model for it yet, so I had to try and make my own, which I kind of did, but then I stopped on it because we got those files and they were given to us. But anyway, what I did was I went on to Blender, I put the model on there. I got this human model as well, which is from Thingiverse, which is completely free. I'm not too sure where to find it now, but it's somewhere on there. And basically what I did is I scaled up to my height, which was around about 6 foot or so. but a few of the designs of the original SpringBonnie or Springtrap doesn't actually fit quite well to how it would fit onto a person in real life. And mainly the torso, that's quite small compared to an actual person, so that's kind of why you saw like the torso that I made extend a bit. So I had to adjust everything and all that. Another thing as well is the lack of neck space as well. Now that I wish I could have made the torso a little bit smaller, but unfortunately I've already made it now, so I might as well go through with it. But I still have range of motion to move my head, and also my neck and everything, and to also open and close the drawer, which is the main thing you gotta think. So not everything can be fully accurate. Until it goes into more animatronic mode, then I can just have the neck a bit bigger, more taller. And let me just think. So mainly some of the body parts which had to be scaled was the head, the torso, the arms as well. Pretty much everything you can think of it had to be scaled to a person, and also to adjust to having all the parts, animatronic parts, all the spring locks, all of that. It had to be contained within there, so it had to be slightly bigger than what it is, pretty much, because in the games and that it's like quite tight fitting, but in reality it would kind of be a little bit bulkier, so that's kind of why you see mine being a little more bulkier. But as well, I quite like it, to be honest with you. It's another variation of SpringBonnie, which I'm happy with. But then again, if I ever do remake it, but way better, then I will, of course, change a few things, since some things now, after making, it doesn't quite work properly. But anyway, after I sorted that out, I then imported the models onto Tinkercad. Sure, a lot of people use CAD, such as Technofur and a few others as well. But to me, I still haven't fully grasped the understanding of it. Like, sure, I've seen a few tutorials and everything, but I'm more used to Tinkercad, which is a little bit more basic. But at the same time, you know, it just depends on what you're comfortable with, and that's, for me, more comfortable, even though if some bits are tedious and trying to get it right and everything. So after doing that, I then also brought in human model as well, and then once I did that, and once I, of course, scribbled down a few design mechanisms and everything, I then started to 3D model them and then test print them as well. Test printing, if anyone's going to be doing any mechanisms or any animatronic mechanisms, test print everything just to make sure, because if you make something and then it doesn't go quite according to plan, then yeah, it's not going to work properly. That's happened to me in the past with not only the Freddy, if anybody remembers me making that, but also with the Endo 2, with Foxy Head, the Endo 1s as well, and a few others. All of those were mainly my errors, because I didn't test print many of the stuff in them. I did test print a few of them, but if you saw, then yeah, it didn't really work out quite good. But I did get better throughout the stages, so at least it was a learning curve. No. So after doing mainly the test designs and everything, oh, another thing as well, I started on the head. I always start on the head, so then you know how the rest of the suit will work and everything, because you gotta make the head quite lightweight compared to the main suit or the animatronic, so like it can be held up and everything and nothing falls over or anything, which for me in the past, of course, has happened. And with the SpringBonnie head I have now, that is also quite heavy, so I have to go and remake another one, which is gonna take even longer, which, to be honest with you, I don't mind. I like making them more accurate, better each time, so I'll make one more head and that's it. I'm not going to do any more for SpringBonnie, unless if it's like, you know, just remake, like, you know, completely remake the suit again, but make it more withered and damaged like Springtrap, so I might do that. Anyway, so after doing that, figuring out all the designs and everything, test printing and putting them together, then what I did was I used a soldering iron, as you know, yeah, I use a soldering iron to put the pieces of 3D printed plastic together. This is to create like a strong bond and everything, you know. You don't want to use hot glue or something like that to like easily tear off. So I just use a soldering iron for the edges and everything. Of course, don't use it for everything, because then if you put it on a part and then you can't take it off, then yeah, it's not going to work. So then after that, any parts that need sanding, I sand it down. Sometimes not very good, as you can see with the teeth with most of my projects and everything. But I will sort that out. The nose as well, I sand it down and I paint anything that goes onto it, because once you paint it and everything, you don't have to worry about it again. But as well, if you start on putting the fabric on first, then painting it, then that's going to be quite difficult, because then you might get paint on fabric, it might look messy, then it'll just be completely horrible, and you don't want that. So take it from me, do the painting first, then apply the fabric onto it, if you're going to be using fabric, of course. Probably mention very quickly that before you do any of that, after printing, you want to make sure all the mechanisms and animatronic parts and everything, make sure that that's all working well and that nothing breaks or damages. You want to make sure of that before you do anything. So apologies for me not saying that before, I almost forgot. But anyway, after doing that, you want to make sure all the fabric is well cut and placed. A few people as well have used pattern designs, so that means they get like a roll of clean film and then put duct tape over it, over like the head or body part or whatever, then they cut it out into patterns and pretty much draw around the pattern on a piece of fabric, then cut it out, then you sew it together, then you place it on, then you glue it on. Basically that. For me, I used to do that, but for this one, I kind of just placed it, cut it, and that's it. Pretty much did that and try to get rid of as much of the seams as possible. So that was one of the things as well. And make sure you cut any excess pieces off quite neatly instead of jagged and horrible like me. Otherwise it will be quite annoying whenever you see your project and you're just like, why did that happen? Why did that happen? For me, it's SpringBonnie's ears, and I'm not happy with them. They've got so much excess, like light coloured yellow fabric, and I'm just like, why did I do that? The time that I was making it, I was so much into a rush, because the movie, I was just about to go see the movie. I wanted to get the fabric done. I quickly did that. Then the next day, I had to quickly do the fabric on the ears and everything, and also do a few house jobs and everything, because the next day I was going to Scotland, so I didn't have much time left. So that's why the week after the FNAF movie came out, I only had the head done, and I couldn't really do much else because I was in Scotland at the time, which I did create a few good videos, but then again, his ear broke from like the servo horn on like the bottom of one of the ears, and that I thought like it was ruined for the rest of the week, until I took the ear apart and looked at another servo motor that wasn't being used, and I thought, oh my god, there's like another servo horn there that I can use. So that's what I did. I took it apart, then put it back together with the other one, and it was fixed, and I was just like, yes. But then when I had to go back home, I had to change it out and everything. But yeah, pretty much. And that bummed me out for like a day or so. I've got a foot. That's why with some of the video edits and everything I did, I just copied and pasted his other ear and mirrored it, so that means nobody could tell. But where was I? Oh yeah, after the fabric for the head, which I did, I've been so sidetracked. I then started working on the body, mainly the torso. I printed out the belly and everything. Now, you may wonder, why is there so many holes within like the torso and the chest and everything? Well, that's to make the print lightweight, so that if it's ever put onto an animatronic, it doesn't have too much to worry about of being heavy. Then when that's done, I put on the whole. No, I didn't put that. I put on the foam into the slots and everything. Then afterwards, I put on more fabric on top. And so like now, depending on where like you're pressing your finger or anything, it's like squishy. So it's not that bad, to be honest with you. The torso as well. I'm trying to think. The belly section, that can open. Pretty much the stomach hatch idea from Five Nights at Freddy's Help Wanted, where like you have to open up Freddy's stomach hatch. Originally, I did want to use the bow tie to open it, but instead I just used the top button to like. Pretty much that's the only spring lock so far, because it like locks into place and then you can unlock it. But yeah, I quite like the idea of that. And so like now, if it's ever in animatronic mode, I can just open the front part up and then wind the spring locks and get it attached. So that makes it way easier, to be honest with you. It was also around Christmas time as well, where I gotten half of the torso made, but I didn't put any fabric on it, so that's why you see like a Santa hat on SpringBonnie and everything. So yeah, but then that's when I started working on the main spring locks for the arms, and also the arms of course. Now I have made these. I made one version of the spring locks for the arms, and it's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. Now the main reason why is because how I made them, they can't be locked properly, and you have to use an L key to then wind them back. Then you have to like put in this little tab, which then stops it from going off. Now when I look at it now, it's not a very good design, but currently I am working on a new design which will not be shown right now, but will be shown later on once it's like fully done. But unfortunately right now I can't really test print anything. I can only design, because both of my printers at the moment, they are both printing off pieces for the waist or hip area. So pretty much what I've done now is, I'll get back to the arms in a moment, I apologise for that, but pretty much what I'm doing now is I'm going to put in like small holes onto the model, and that's so like if there's any mechanisms that's going to be added, like the spring locks or the endoskeleton and everything, I can just 3D print that off and then attach them on. Just a little side note, I'm actually going to be basing the spring locks and also the SpringBonnie suit on the games rather than the movie version. The movie version is still quite good, don't get me wrong. I just think some of the ideas, such as the spring locks, Technofur does explain it quite well, but there's like a little bit where like I can understand, but as well it's quite unnecessary from like a normal perspective. Basically all the spring locks are unnecessary, that's all I'm saying. But I prefer more the game versions, and also books as well. So both the games and books, such as from the Silverized, which I absolutely love, and also from a few of the Fazbear Fright stories, and my favourite story so far out of all of them has to be Pressure, where they talk about the Springtrap suit and how detailed and everything, like how it just talks so much into detail of how it all is, and that's like heaven. That's like one of my main bases of like trying to figure out what it is. But of course, some other things such as the other books, even the graphic novels I look at as well, but I don't take full inspiration from. But if we go back to the arms, I will be taking inspiration from bits of like the books, such as that, because pretty much it's kind of implied in the books that both the Springlock suit and the endoskeleton can be separated. So for the arms and legs for my suit, and also for the head, of course, you can take apart after unwinding the spring locks. You can then take out the animatronic parts. So, but for the main torso, that's still gonna have the main endoskeleton inside. So yeah. But anyway, back to the arms. Sorry about that. Back to the arms. So I've currently made the endoskeleton arm as like a test version, and also a few of the spring locks, which aren't really that good. But I had to change a few of the things, such as the forearm. So I had to completely remake that because of how small it was. So I had to make it slightly bigger and everything. But mainly, while this was happening and I was still working on it, one of the main problems was trying to keep the arms up still. So then after I finished printing them out, putting the foam inside and then putting the fabric on, I had these buckles and clips which I then attached to them, and then I glued onto the torso. I even have these little hinges for the elbows, for the shoulders. I have them for the shoulders, so like they can still stay on and everything, but they move up whenever your arms up and go down whenever your arms go down, you know, just so it doesn't look out of place. But yeah, after doing that, then got the arms done, then I started working on the fingers, which, sure, it's quite controversial of how I made them, but I like them because I kind of took a little bit of inspiration from the movie as well, how like, because if you think about in the movie version how big the hand and the fingers are, they could only pretty much go through one part of the knuckle. And also, if you saw in some parts of the movie as well, it's like, you know, like it can't fully grasp stuff sometimes, or like the ends of the fingers can't close in properly. So they're kind of left on an angle a little bit, but I quite like that. And I used like the same kind of idea where it's like a glove with then the 3D printed piece all around it, then you glue on the fingers onto like the glove and everything like that, so like it moves around and stuff. So that's how I did it, and I quite like it.